By the end of this video, you're gonna be able to create all 5 of these effects in After Effects, so you can go viral. Keep watching till the end because the effects get more underrated as we go, with the last one being my favorite. Let's go. Alright, so the first effect we're gonna be creating is gonna be a ripple effect. So here inside of After Effects, the only thing I did here is I prepared a clip of Dexter Morgan, and the composition settings are 1080 by 1080, of course 60 FPS, and it's just 2 seconds long. So what we wanna do is we wanna go up to Layer, New, and create a new adjustment layer. Then we wanna go to Effects and Presets panel. If you can't find this panel here, you just go up to Window and you select Effects and Presets. Then we want to search for BCC Ripple Dissolve. Now, if you don't have this effect in your After Effects, that is because this is not a built-in plugin. So if you want to know how to get this, just message me on Discord and I'll help you out with that. But we're going to search for the BCC Ripple Dissolve effect and drag this onto the adjustment layer. Now, here we want to change the light color to white. We want to change the animation from auto to PCT done. And as you can see, we can already see something is happening here. Now, how I like to do this is set the percent done to about 25. Set a keyframe for this. Press U on your keyboard to reveal this keyframe and then go to the end of the clip and then set this to 100. Then we can select all of these keyframes, right click on it, keyframe assistant, and go to easy ease, and then go into the graph editor and make sure you're on the value graph. And then we want to have a graph that looks something like this, like that. And as you can see, this is what this effect does. Now, this might look a little bit weird, like it kind of stretches, you know, the composition and everything, and that might look a little bit weird, like just rewatching it like this. But obviously, if you have this like in the middle of an edit or whatever, then it's gonna look really nice. Obviously, what you can even do if you don't want their faces to be all messed up and everything is you can even start from something like 42 and then just have the same graph, and that's going to be a lot less like heavy on the faces. And for this effect, obviously what you can also even do is go into the light color and change this to whatever color you like. So if you want red, for example, you can also do red. You can basically play around with this however you like. And I also wanted to show you a second variation of this effect, which is where you decrease the light level from 75 all the way to 0, which is just going to create this effect. And for some edits, this also looks really cool. We don't have any color in this ripple, but just the ripple itself. All right, so moving on to the second effect, which is going to be a lens blur. And how we're going to do this is again create an adjustment layer just how we did before. Go to Layer, New, and Adjustment Layer, and this time we're going to search for the effect called PCC Lens Blur OBS and then drag this onto our adjustment layer. And here we want to change a couple of settings. So first of all, set the gamma to 1000, set the scale Y to 50 as well as the scale X. Then we can go and change the iris scale to 30 and then go into the iris and change the iris shape from 6 sides to 4 sides. And then we want to set a keyframe for the iris scale property. Press U on your keyboard to open the keyframes and go to the end and then set this back to 0. And again, select all these keyframes, right click on them, keyframe assistant, and easy ease them. Then go into the graph editor. As for the graph, we want to go ahead and drag this to about here, and then the other one, we don't have to move that. And as you can see, we're going to have this cool blur effect. Now we can even combine this with a brightness effect. So if we go to Effects and Presets and we search for PCC brightness and contrast, we can go ahead and add this to our layer. Then set a keyframe for the brightness. At the start, change this to 25. Press U on your keyboard, open up the keyframes, go to the end, and then change this back to 0. Then select these keyframes, right click keyframe assistant and easy ease, then go into our graph editor. For this graph, we want to just grab this to about here, so the graph should be similar to our lens blur. With both of these edits, we're going to have this effect. Obviously, you can also use this for a transition or whatever you like. But moving on to our third effect, which is going to be a warp. What we're also going to do, as always, is go to Layer, New, and select the adjustment layer here. And then for this, we're going to search for the warp effect inside of our effects and presets. We just want to use the built-in warp effect inside of After Effects. So under the distort panel, you should find the warp. Just drag it onto the adjustment layer. And if you just add it, it's going to look really weird. We're going to change this up. So go to warp style here and change the arc to fisheye, and then change the bend to -83. Now I know this looks really weird, but trust me, this is going to look nice at the end. So we want to first of all click here and add a keyframe for the bend. Press U on your keyboard while selecting the adjustment layer to open up the keyframes. Then go all the way to the end and then change this back to 0. Then again, select all the keyframes, right click keyframe assistant and easy ease, and then go into our graph editor. So for this graph, we're going to drag this and drag this pretty high up, something like that. And then for this one, drag it about there. And this is how this looks now. Obviously, just this effect alone, it can look pretty weird, but obviously if you use this in edit with a few other effects, then it's going to look really great. Now, obviously, on just one clip here, it looks a little bit weird. But all of these effects that I'm showing you here, these can be combined and you can actually stack these effects on top of each other to create a really cool effect. So for example, with this warp, we could go ahead and add the ripple on top of it. So we can just basically go ahead and copy this layer and put it on top. As you can see, if we combine both of these effects, it's going to have this really cool effect where the clip has a warp, but there is also a ripple on top. This is an effect that I always like to use because I think it looks super nice. But for the warp, I want to show you another variation that you could use. So let's just disable this adjustment layer for now and then go ahead and create a new one. And we're going to use the same warp effect that we have used before, but a little bit differently. So for the warp style, instead of selecting fisheye, we're going to select squeeze here. And here you want to set the bend to 15 and set a keyframe for that. Then you want to press U on your keyboard to reveal these keyframes. Then go ahead 11 frames in your timeline. How you can go ahead frame by frame is by clicking Command or Control and then the right or left arrow. So I went ahead 11 frames, and now we want to change this to -7. Then you're going to go ahead another 14 frames and then set it to -3. And then you want to go ahead 17 frames and then set it back to 0. Then just select all these keyframes, right click keyframe assistant and easy ease them. And obviously now you can see that this doesn't really fit our clip duration. So what you want to do is select all the keyframes while holding Option or Alt on your keyboard, drag this out like this. And now we have our warp, but as you can see, there are these ugly black bars that appear. So how we can remove those is by searching for the motion tile effect inside our effects and presets and add this to the layer, set the output width to 300 as well as the output height, and then click on mirror edges and then make sure that this is on top of our warp. And this is going to remove the ugly black bars. And then we're going to have this cool warp effect. So you can also use this for your edits. But moving on to our fourth effect, which is going to be an edge raise effect. As always, just create an adjustment layer by going to layer new and adjustment layer. And then now we want to search for the S_edge raise effect. This is also not a built-in effect. So if you want to know how to install this, just send me a message on Discord. But we want to drag this onto our adjustment layer. And we can already see that there are some of these edge rays appearing, but we want to change a couple of settings. So inside the raise length, we want to set this from 0.25 to 0.9 and then set the raise brightness to 3.5 at the start. Then we want to go ahead and add a keyframe for the raise brightness as well as the center X and Y. And for the center X and Y, you can play around with this, but I like to have the raise move from top to bottom. So I want to set this to the bottom of the clip, then go to the end and then set the center X and Y to about here on his face so that it is going to move basically downwards. And then we can set the raise brightness back to 0. And then for this one, we only want to easy ease the raise brightness keyframes. So only select these, right click and keyframe assistant easy ease, and then go into the graph editor. And then for the graph, we're going to have a pretty sharp graph. So something like that. And with that, this is the effect that we're going to get. So yeah, this is a pretty nice effect. It can also look really good on your edits. So obviously you can also play around with this. You can even change the color of these rays. So for example, if you would want a red color, then feel free to do that. Now, in my opinion, that doesn't look the best, but obviously for some edits, they can also work great. And for the last and final effect, we're going to do a warp chroma effect. And I'm not only going to show you how to create this, but also tell you use case of when you could use this effect. So again, you go to layer new and then go to adjustment layer. Then we want to search for the effect called S_warp chroma and then just drag it onto our layer. And then inside these settings, we want to change a couple of these. So for the steps, we're going to set this to 8. We want to set the from Z dist from 0.85 to 0.6. And for the 2Z dist, we want to set this to 0.35. And that should be good. Now, what we want to do here, because obviously it now looks really weird, is just select our adjustment layer, go up to here, and then hold the left click on this, and then go ahead and go to the ellipse tool. And what we're going to do is while holding Command or Control on our keyboard, just click on this twice. And this is going to create a mask around this adjustment layer. Now, what we want to do is this has opened our mask. We want to open out this mask that it has opened. Click on invert and then change the mask feather to 260. And as you can see, now we have this really cool warp chroma effect on top of our clip. And especially when this can be useful is when you loop your edit. So I'm going to put an example on screen where for the first part of the edit, this effect is not added on the edit, but then when I loop the edit, this effect is on it, so that it basically adds a bit of variety into the edit. Even though it is looped, even though it is the same edit, it kind of looks like it's a different one and it looks a bit new to the viewer, so they're going to keep watching. So this is a really nice effect to keep the viewer's attention. And the last and final thing is going to be adding a color correction to our edit, which as you can see is going to increase the quality by a lot. And if you want to get the exact same color correction that I use in all of my edits, as well as get all of my presets, you can now click on the first link in the description where you can go onto my page and buy my full editing bundle that I have just released. That editing bundle is going to have all of my presets and basically everything that I use to create my edits, so I wouldn't miss it. Now I also just created my brand new editing server, so if you want to connect with other editors, that's the place for you. But with that said, subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment on what you'd like to see next. I'll see you in the next one.